And it's crazy because I got some stuff to get into. I definitely got some stuff to get into, and I'm gonna get into it. And it's not even gonna have nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight. That's the sick part. Like, yeah, I'm gonna add my boy on now. See what he got going on. See what his vibes is. I don't have no request, but I go request him. And free time. Yep. Welcome. We're gonna get into it. It's a little crazy. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get into nothing crazy. I think we're just gonna get into some stuff for sure. Um, yeah, we're gonna get into some stuff for sure. Make sure y'all can hear me on the live. Can y'all hear me? I probably should have my AirPod in for my phone, but we'll see. We'll see. Can I
Hey
be heard?
there.
Hear me? Can you hear me on the live?
I can hear you, my brother. What's going on with you?
Ah, man, nothing. I can't call it.
I feel you. I
Yeah,
feel you.
I can hear me.
I feel you. How are things, my brother?
You gonna start the recording?
You're a smart man, because I definitely was about to forget the hell out of
I
that.
know.
You're a genius. I told you that before.
Yeah, I
I told
know.
you. I told you that
I
before.
mean,
You're a smart man.
I don't know about a genius, but I'm pretty smart.
You're a liar. Why are you lying to the
About
ABC
being a
family?
genius?
No, about like how you feel about yourself. Whether you are or not, I'm your best friend, so I'm gonna support you regardless. But you know you feel like you
I mean, I feel like a lot of things.
are. Okay. Cool. So let's not lie to the people. You definitely big TJ from Recess.
But yo.
That's an inside. That's
All
an
done.
inside. They won't get that,
They
but
won't.
it's
They
cool.
won't. They
It's,
won't. But
it's,
yo. Welcome to the All Done Podcast. I'm Shakes. That's my brother Tracy. We here for you. Tracy, what's good,
every week.
brother?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. I am happy to be here chopping it up with my brother one more time. Thank the Lord for waking me up one more again.
God did.
God,
But
I did.
I said I was gonna get into something. I just find it crazy how when you start doing certain things, you ask people to come along and you reach out to people and everybody see what's happening. Nobody's there. Like, I will see, blah, blah, blah. But once it starts gaining ground, it's, I want to be a part of this. And yeah, so, and I see that happen with a lot of things. And I had got a text today about something. I'm like, what? Man, get out of here. Get out of here.
Why I gotta be? See, now we gotta talk about your growth, my brother. We gotta talk
My
about your
growth?
growth. Yeah, we gotta talk about your growth. Why is it gotta be get out of here?
Because it definitely got to be get out of here with certain people. Not everybody. Like, the real ones know. Like, example, when we talk about the podcast, we spoke to a few of us about starting it, but me and you end up, just go ahead and doing it. The real ones know that they always welcome, they can always be a part of it.
No doubt.
But, the other ones that was watching from a distance to see what happens, nah.
Yeah, we're approaching 100 episodes, man, or it might be slightly past it with everything.
I
But
want to say we're past total. If you count our YouTube and you count our lives and everything, that we're past it. But that's neither here nor there. We here for you now. We here. Don't forget to tune in to where you listen to your podcast, where you stream your podcast, your favorite podcast streaming. We're there.
bright and early tomorrow morning.
Bright and early
We will be
tomorrow,
there.
and just type in All Done Podcast, and boom, here we go. But yo, what we talking about, my guy?
We got a few interesting topics, things going on in the news. We're going to use some of your favorite celebs as vehicles to talk about some bigger conversations, as we often do. But let's start with the sister that's, stripped for championship over cannabis, because I think that is a very interesting topic in 2023, and we've seen the expansion of cannabis in our lifetime. I've heard somebody make a brilliant reference that millennials, us, we've known life without this. Like, go live. Like, we couldn't go live when we were 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, that wasn't a thing like this. Right? Press the button, go live. So I think it's an interesting evolution. And I think cannabis is kind of going through a lot of the same things. So this sister, her name is Tara Davis Woodhull, stripped of her national title after testing positive for cannabis, a track superstar. And so we want to just touch on, cannabis and athletes. What are your thoughts? Cannabis and athletes 2023.
I'm thinking, why should it be a conversation? I don't even think it's a performance enhancer. Most people I know that get high, they're usually more laid back. I
think
don't know.
I think when Sha'Carri got caught, sister Sha'Carri Richardson got caught up. I think there were multiple studies that I've seen where it was like, we're not talking about an enhancing thing. We're talking about, because I told you don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening. And like, at this point, why are we still testing for weed in sports?
I knew somebody was going to say that.
The rules are rules. And that's a fact. But with that being said,
that's cap.
No, rules are rules. So with that being said, why are those the rules?
They're not. That's cap. Because if rules are rules, Black people would still be enslaved, because there was all types of things that were rules and laws that we couldn't do. You couldn't read.
You was waiting for that one.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
You was waiting for that one. We're going to give it up for you for that one. Yeah, you was waiting for that one.
I was loaded up. But the point is the point is still valid, right? Everything that the society puts forward as okay or forthright or law or rule, that's the point. We are the people living in a society that's supposed to be governed by us, right? Democracy, for the people, by the people. Yeah. And so the cannabis laws in not only track, but we see this in the NFL as well, right? These brothers been fighting this battle for a long time. And I mean, I'm not going to get into the science of the positives of the effects on athletes and marijuana. You can look up that stuff yourself. But again, to strip someone of a national title, I don't. And then
it was a delayed reaction, no? Because this happened in February. She was tested. She started serving her suspension March 21st.
I'm not a track person, but the point is, right and wrong is wrong. Like, times have to change, and again, democracy is slow. Somebody is commenting. I need you to get on it. You want me to get on it? I can actually see the comments tonight. Shout out to my phone.
Shout out to your phone. What you got?
Someone said this. You're not funny. Someone said this is their job though, and then they said,
"Don't break the rules and expect to get a pass." This is not the first athlete to do this. So that. But my question becomes, why is that the rule? And like, why I can see why steroids would be illegal, because it gives you a competitive edge. I can see why, but on the same token, they'll dope you up with a bunch of other stuff that's way more harmful than marijuana, and it's still perfectly legal and you can compete. So
talk about it.
So I guess the issue becomes like, maybe that's why she broke the rule, like, because like, I'm not going to put this other stuff in my body.
It's never been a rule, because look at our society right now. It's a $1 billion industry.
That's a fact.
Billion with a B. Mm-hmm. Now that y'all can get ins and partake, it's love, right? Like, now that y'all can get in on the weed business and you want to take this sister's national title, but you've made billions of dollars. And don't get me into like, what about the incarcerated? Because it's a problem that we still have. We still have it. No, cap. Yeah. No, that's not true. Because I'm not going to put people out there and say names, but I know people in very wealthy positions that do coke all day.
Cocaine. It just don't stay in your system as long as it's hard to catch it.
They do coke all day. So, and they have a variety of jobs. So drugs are drugs. And now we're entering a phase where cannabis is okay. That's what
So okay, here's the issue. I'm not understanding the argument here, because like the commenter is a recreational drug and it alters your brain chemistry. Yeah, please be serious. So is Adderall and things like that. So these things are perfectly legal. I've never heard of a player being stripped of a title for Adderall or Ritalin or anything of that
I'm
nature.
about to say, it's so many drugs. It's so
That
many drugs. You got to listen to some of these pro athletes talk. It's
Yeah,
so many
me
drugs.
and you
It's
both
so many
athletes, bro.
drugs.
Like
Yeah.
we done did some stuff to help us get through a game.
At a lower level, imagine
Yeah, I didn't do
professional.
cocaine.
No. I mean, that's the L to Lawrence Taylor days, and they did
They did
cocaine,
cocaine to get them to
and then
get the
they
games. So,
played.
or the stuff they shoot them up with at halftime, to get them to play and finish a game. And that's more of
That's
a
my
competitive
point.
edge because, example, Patrick Mahomes. You know how hard it is to play on a high sprain?
He shouldn't have been able to play, but they shot him up with all types of different shit, and he was able to go out there. And without him, they probably lose. And so, if you want to talk about an athletic advantage, I don't care that Sha'Carri smoked some weed because she was in a depressed state and wanted to, feel better. And
And,
I don't know this sister's
and
plight.
some
I
things
don't
we got
know
to keep in
what
mind.
happened.
So, some things we got to keep in mind. That don't necessarily mean they smoked during the competition.
It doesn't.
They could have smoked 2 weeks before in a
100%.
state where it might be perfectly legal. We don't
These days,
know. We just
it's
know she
expected.
failed the drug
Yeah.
test.
Because of cannabis is what the headline said too.
Yeah. It says THC, which is found in cannabis and hashish. If you read into the article, everyone has a.
It's tough for me because it's about y'all are picking and choosing what drugs to put them on, and
Yeah.
that's wrong, right? Like if I want to smoke some weed, but then I could go there, you can give me some, what is it called, Toradol, or I mean the number of different shots and different things that with the brother from Varsity Blues, he tried to give him that shot, the quarterback, Bud. Bud tried to give the quarterback
Not
that
everyone
shot
has an authorized provider. See, and that's not a good argument because what if it's legal for recreational use?
in the
What if she
state
was? Yeah, what if she was in Colorado?
these days.
Yeah, that's crazy. No. So
So this is now that last
listen.
comment. That last comment I have to address because that's the problem with us. And I'm not even talking about us as black people, which is what we normally would talk about. I'm talking about us as a people in general. This
Right.
is our society. Weed is just like alcohol,
Exactly, and that's where I was gonna go with it.
right? Weed is just like alcohol. So as long as you consume responsibly,
It
it's
shouldn't
fine.
be a problem.
And so if you're going to legalize it, which many states have done, the majority of states are really, adopting this new principle. You cannot tell this an athlete. And again, I'm not going to,
It's
I want
even
to be
legal
clear.
for medical use in Mississippi, and we the last to do everything.
But I want to be clear, though, because I do understand the point kind of like employees or employers saying, I don't
Don't
want,
want the employees under the influence while they work.
I totally understand that.
But
But
that's
that's
what
not
brought up my point of it might have not even been on the day of.
That's what I'm talking about because a lot of people bring that point up. So let's just be clear. No, we are not in agreement that your employee should be at your place of employment high. That's what. That's again addressing
Yeah,
the obvious.
we're
That's
not idiots.
duh.
We get that.
But
Just like you shouldn't be at work drunk.
duh.
Hell, you shouldn't
But
be at work if you done took too much NyQuil.
duh. But if you happen to have a proclivity for
Check state
smoking a
law is
little,
simple. No, it's not that simple. See, that's the thing.
it's
Because Sha'Carri
very
Richardson,
complicated.
it was legal where she smoked. Her state,
Louisiana.
it was perfectly legal.
Uh-huh.
But when they tested her for the Olympics, she tested hot.
Yeah,
No,
nah,
I mean,
nah.
see, then we
I
get
would
into
disagree.
semantics. Oh well, make sure you're good when it's showtime. So then, How long do I have to wait in between? The fact that she be high and still one of the fastest people in the world, and it's not even a performance enhancing drug. I think a lot of people don't take into account how much pressure athletes are Are under, rather.
I
That's what I was trying to say.
think
How much pressure athletes are under
Ricky
is the
Williams, and
perfect example.
Calvin Johnson are both, they're major players on this front. Like, yeah, you don't
Don't forget about
understand
Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon. Nah, but I don't know if he's an advocate for. I
I mean,
think
he's
his
not an
shit.
advocate, but that's somebody who just, he felt like he needed to do it.
Yeah, but I think his shit was more recreational. I think Ricky Williams and Calvin Johnson both are standing on platforms where it's like, for professional athletes, you have no idea the stress that comes with this position, or like high profile athletes.
Yeah,
You have no idea
that's
that
a
comes with
fact.
this position.
That's
So
a
if I want
fact.
to smoke a little weed to cut the edge, as a consumer of the athletic products that these people are putting out, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think people realize some of the drugs they put into these athletes so they can keep performing, or they can deal with anxiety, or stuff like that. So I take no issue with a little weed. I mean, it's not my thing, but I don't knock it. Because if a player says, well, I have a drink every night to take the edge off, he's perfectly fine by the rules.
I mean, accountability. The last time I was talking about accountability, like, no, if you look at her, like, even in this headline picture, this woman is not out of shape. This woman is not, she doesn't look like, oh man, I'm depressed, or
She's a
like,
medalist.
yeah, like, I'm
So
doing this as a
she put the
struggle.
work in to win.
Yeah, like, this is not she doesn't have a problem. So what are we talking about right now?
A blunt that she might have smoked a month before the competition, before the test. We know we stayed in the system a while.
Again, I'm not sure that we as a society, especially us middle class, lower class, us Americans, that's black, white, everyone, all of us that are in that class, we have to, again, continue to push the powers that be to be like, well, the rule that you're creating is unfair to us because we have to deal with it in real time.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I want to say I've seen a study, and of course a pothead probably sent it to me, that shows that you get a better workout if you work out when you're high. And it has something to do with focus and stuff like that. But I think the issue becomes like, why is weed or THC or whatever you want to call it still illegal, and why are we still testing for it?
Now hold on, because the comments now is here was like, it's like new life. Somebody told me, or somebody said, you need to eat whatever bullshit you're on and come back correct next time. I would say in response, because you got to respond to a comment like that. That's a beautiful comment. I would say that marijuana, sir, ma'am, is legal now.
Sir, man.
Right? Marijuana is legal in
a lot of places.
And I think even when they bestowed the evil criminality of that drug on our people for so many years, they knew that it wasn't as stringent as maybe they made it seem. Which is why now, a few years later, maybe a decade later, it's legal in many places.
Perfectly
and
legal
so
in a lot of places. And they start to see the medical benefits. I think the issue with them becomes, well, it's something that can be grown so easily. How do we keep tabs on how we make a profit from it? And the crazy part about that is they still make plenty of money. I'm not being biased because I'm not a smoker.
Good for you. Good for you for reading the SAT book, though. Come on, those are great. Good for you. That's fantastic.
What on the word drops?
Good for you. Those words are great words. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But no, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I'm being biased. Well, I am being biased, I guess, as an athlete, as a former athlete, or as a coach now who sees players who go through pains and take 6 ibuprofen to not feel pain during the game,
that's not
or results of stuff like horse liniment to rub on their achy muscles before games to help warm up.
Also not healthy.
So yeah, I am a little biased. Something a little bit more natural. You can get it in a safer form as such, so you don't have to smoke it. It could be gummies or something like that. So yes, I'm a little biased when it comes to that, but I'm
not biased at all. I'm not admitting to that. I'm logical, and logic and reason dictates that The reason that marijuana and cannabis had such a tough time out the gate is because our society, the powers that be, couldn't get their financial arms around it. And now that we've come to a place where they can get more so their financial arms around it, we're seeing it being legalized. That's the reality of the situation. That's logic and
It can
reason. There's
cause
no
dementia
bias or
if used long term.
okay. Again, if you use
I
anything,
personally never seen anybody suffer from dementia from
maybe
weed.
no, because I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that
Yeah,
comment is correct.
studies, yeah, maybe. But long
Whatever.
term alcohol
That's
use causes liver damage.
thank you.
Long
The
term use
McDonald's
of
we
most medications cause some type of liver damage or kidney failure. So there's so much. I don't know. Maybe I am biased. Maybe I'll leave
maybe
it
they
at
just
I'm
say
biased.
they just say them too fast in the commercials for most people to hear it. All the
Yeah,
side effects for these drugs, right? Like
yeah.
this is not some new crazy
Like I live with MS, right? And
fact.
I take a medication for it
You
on a
do.
daily,
You
right?
do. Yep.
And I started wondering, well, what are some of the side effects? And the doctor's pretty much like, oh, well, nothing major. And as I
Yeah.
read the side effects, one of them was it can cause you to become sterile. What? Like, what do you mean that's nothing major? So, yeah, so stuff like that. But like I said, maybe I am biased.
No, I'm not giving them that. Go
I
to the
think
next
it's a
topic.
situation now becomes a situation of pick your poison if you want to make that argument. But I'd much rather my poison to come from something that, never mind. I
Life is life.
digress.
But
Yeah.
since we talk about people getting stripped of their titles and removed from positions, um, we've had two political pundits over the last 10 days or so get removed from positions that they were extremely accustomed to.
Hold on. Before you get into that, before you get into
Go
that,
ahead.
I just want to say this.
Talk it.
I be listening back to our podcast and our episodes and things like that.
Uh-huh.
You be coming through with the vocabulary and the articulation and things of that nature. So I just want to shout out you for that. Because, yeah, I like that. You be doing that, bro. You
Shout
be
out to
doing that. But
college.
continue, my bad.
Shout out to college. Shout out to college and just trying to, again, continue to expand my vocabulary and expand my mind. We at the ADP don't claim to know everything because we don't, right? And these are our opinions, and we try to articulate them in the best form and format. But it's really just about trying to challenge ideas and principles that society holds at the forefront, and maybe that you yourself hold at the forefront. Like one of the comments said earlier is like, well, this is your job, and this is what you. There was once upon a time where slave catching was a job, and so if we're just gonna follow the job at all times and do what they quote unquote tell us to do, then we're gonna be in trouble. History has proven that.
Rules are rules was one of the other comments.
Yeah, again,
Emmett
those
Till
and those,
was brutalized for whistling at someone. So
and I don't want to degrade the
comment
commenter
because that's
because
real.
that is real.
I got what the comment meant. Like,
No doubt.
listen, you signed up for this. They gave you these rules to abide by, and you have to do that.
Stephen A. Smith, right? You always hear him if you follow anything.
Oh
Stay
yeah, word.
off the weed, right? Like that's a whole thing. He's made a business or a brand off stay off the weed when it's like now it's like, well, now companies are making billions off the weed, substantial cash.
Yeah,
And so
I
now what
follow
are you
rules on
talking
a
about?
daily basis. I think my issue becomes more so of
We
why
all
is
do.
this the rule
We
when it
all do.
comes to that.
And there's nothing wrong with asking that question to me.
Yeah.
Back to my brother Don Lemon, fired from CNN and infamous. Do I want to call him a white supremacist? I'll say suspected white supremacist. Tucker Carlson, fired from Fox News. You might remember Tucker from some of his greatest hits, The Replacement Theory. Trayvon Martin was a thug and was looking for it. Or Tamir Rice shouldn't have been playing with toy guns in a parking lot or in a playground as a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Some of his greatest hits. But just Google Tucker Carlson, you can find. But both of these pundits,
Some of his greatest hits.
both of these political pundits were fired in the last couple of days. Somebody
Yeah,
said something.
absolutely.
Hold
And
up.
and,
Run it
and
back.
more of the issue. You said what?
Hold up. Let me read it.
For the ones
Yeah.
listening to the All Done
I'm
podcast,
about
the
to say,
comments are,
it's the
why are we
face. It's the face.
correlating drug use at a sports event with slavery? Sir at the bottom with the beanie on, be serious. Oh, there's no on there, but yeah, sir with the beanie, be serious.
Okay,
He said you
so
got on
I
your
would
tinfoil
say,
kufi, bro.
and it's not a ridiculous correlation because we could correlate it to anything, right? We could correlate it today with industries making billions of dollars. People are making billions of dollars off narcotics, cannabis, which 10 years ago, there's still people locked up for it. So there's a simple correlation. And for that person that put that, how do you justify that? How do you rectify the situation of making this legal now in 2023, but in 2012, you go to jail for 15 years?
Mm.
There is a conflict you're talking about in that right there. I couldn't take it back to slavery because it's something that they've always done to our people, right? We see and I don't want to do right. Let me get a transgender, but we see transgender men or women, whatever. We see men turn to women and then dominate female sports,
Right.
and so now we don't have a problem with that, right? The rules have
And
changed.
then the issue with that becomes they have to take certain drugs, whether it be more testosterone or more estrogen, whatever the case may be,
No doubt.
for that change. No?
No doubt.
But
But you see people now, even like you see sisters, there was a couple sisters from Jamaica that they quote unquote had too much testosterone. They wouldn't let them compete in certain events. And it wasn't like they were shooting, they just had a certain higher level of testosterone and people let them compete. So rules, the concept of rules, especially in 2023, is a very loose I have a very loose interpretation. And I think most people are trending that way because what was fact 2, 3 years ago may not be fact today, may not be ruled today. And so I would implore us to keep up with the times. Challenge
that brother's
your
spitting.
rules.
That brother's
Challenge
spitting.
your rules. Challenge your rules and don't let people tell you. So, for example, we can get back into the Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson thing.
Mm-hmm.
The realities of why they got dismissed. I mean, I know exactly why I would dismiss a Tucker Carlson, but it's Fox News, so who knows? But the little clip I seen, and you can find this online, of Don Lemon being fired is because he was challenging the rules. And if you got to get fired for challenging rules, you got to stand on something. You can't just, right? Because if I'm a slave catcher, and this is, again, the correlation, if I'm a slave catcher in the 1800s and I never challenged the rules of why am I going to catch human beings and return them back to this brutality, if none of the slave catchers ever challenge those rules, who knows? Like, at some point, you got to challenge things that inherently disrupt your conscience. It disrupts my conscience when I see a sister work her life to get a title and then take it away in an industry that you're making billions off of. Yep. Problematic.
There we go, right there. Yeah, I really couldn't say all that better.
Tucker
we was talking
Carlson,
about what we had got on to Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. They're saying mass media is really
and I was just about to get to that. I said so more
right.
so than they got fired for whatever they did or didn't do. The post you sent me, it became a question of, is mass media crumbling?
Yeah, that was a question I've seen a lot.
I don't feel as such. Of course, most people get their news from social media anyway, but I think mass media still has or holds a place where everybody goes for their information.
No, but more so these two political pundits are huge figures, and I think that's more so what I was mentioning. Like, excuse me, for these political pundits to be dismissed from their respective networks, not that they can't get another job or whatever, but what do you think it says that a Tucker Carlson that's been on the national television spouting all types of bullshit for a very long time, and Don Lemon, who I'm not going to say I always agree with Don Lemon because I don't, But there's some things that he says that I can get on board with. But they are staples for mass media. And for these major companies to dismiss them, does that say anything to you?
I mean, it was a wrestler, and his intro music was "Enough is enough," and it's time for a change.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what it comes to. Like,
Mm.
I don't have much on him because I don't, I'm not a CNN
You're
or
not a
Fox
mass,
News person.
not a
I watch
mass
a
media
lot of,
guy.
yeah, I watch a lot of local news and catch
I
what I need
will
to catch
tell
up
you,
on and here
I
and
will
there.
say and give my opinion to this end, and then we'll kind of move on to the main topic and wrap this thing up. But I will say that it is startling to me as the general public when you start to dismiss your major pawns, right? Because mass media it's a conglomerate. We're not talking about, this is not your mom and pop pizza store. These are
Hmm.
major mainstream media
That's a
companies.
fact.
And so when they start to dismiss their long-term pundits,
Uh-huh.
political operatives, or however you like to phrase it, my antennas are going to raise, because a very easy and simple question is why? Why now? This man has said all types of vile things. Why now?
I mean, like I said, a lot of the stuff is what they did off air. So not what they said or did
Yeah, but that's
on
not,
air,
no,
but
no, 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 no,
like
no,
one of
no,
them
no,
was
no,
like,
no, no, it's not.
well,
No, it's
one of
not.
them was like an inappropriate relationship with an intern or something like that, and did a
No,
lot of other creepy things. So a,
erroneous.
a comment said he also stalked a former coworker.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but give
yeah.
me give me the major company that doesn't have that at the CEO,
I
COO,
mean, and
vice
that's
president,
a
president level.
fact, but it's just a matter of if you get complaints about it or not.
No, it
Right?
ain't.
No,
No, it's not. No, it's
no.
not. Because when it's time, Jerry Jones was literally photographed in a picture 6 months ago, keeping black kids out of a school. He's literally photographed being a racist, and he still has his team.
Yeah, that's true.
So
But
these things come with time. I think over time, like Donald Sterling, there were multiple complaints. You remember the Donald Sterling
yeah.
thing? Multiple complaints about this man. It didn't go left until enough people jumped on it. So don't give me like all the
So,
other
but
downfalls.
that's pretty much what happened. And like Don Lemon and because he's been doing a lot of stuff, and you know,
I don't think
eventually
it
enough
is.
people complained.
I don't think it is, because these firings came out of nowhere, right? And maybe the people in the chat could tell me, before these firings, I hadn't really heard.
What's the call?
It wasn't a big kick up, was it? Was it a big kick up? Like, oh no, it's on the brink of the firing.
So people should be harassed at their job because the star of the show is more important. Yeah, nah. I think that happened to Ellen
Uh,
too. It got out.
I'm about to say,
It got out on Ellen too, like how she treated her staff and how she treated people. So, I mean, like I said, it's your ability to keep it under wraps, and
uh,
once you get enough complaints, you're out of
it's
there.
your ability to be in the moment and be relevant in the moment, and then people will keep you.
Yeah.
That's simple. It has nothing to do, because we've seen it time and time again. And I don't want to bring up certain powerful people, because some of them I'm a fan of their business, but there
I
have been
mean, yeah.
there have been
I
accusations.
mean, if you
There's been
look deep enough
accusations.
into different companies and stuff, like their
Okay,
CEOs and COOs,
thank you.
they do a lot of deplorable things, and like I said,
Precisely.
it's just a matter if you look deep enough and if it comes to the light. Not
And
the
so
fact that
don't
nobody knows,
thank you.
not the fact that nobody knows. It just hadn't come to the night, to the
And
light.
honestly, if they were still, I think the firing. This is just my objective opinion. I think if those ratings for those two gentlemen were still as high, if they were still topping political television, they wouldn't have got fired, because that refutes exactly what you're saying. If Tucker Carlson was the A1 priority and was getting all the viewership, they're not going to fire him. The candle is going out, right? The fire is dimming in these
Mm,
gentlemen, and that's why it makes sense now that I can get them out of there. So don't give me that these companies have some moral responsibility to their employees, or anyone for that matter. It's about money, and the money's dwindling enough where I can replace you,
you
probably
was
for a
once
much
hot,
cheaper,
but now you're not, huh?
and I can
And
replace.
that's what it comes
And
to.
going to place you for a
what
much
sells right
cheaper
now.
price. I can place you for a much cheaper price. I don't
No,
have to pay as much as I'm paying you, and I can get someone to spew the same anti-racist bullshit that you've been spewing.
so basically, what it comes down to is really anybody can be expendable, huh?
When you're not hot, you're not hot.
That's what I'm saying. If your fire started to die off, you're expendable. Like, yo, what can
The
I do with you?
key
What
is
I use it for?
when you're working for a major corporation, right?
Because
Fox,
it's
bro,
about the bottom
Fox.
line.
Come on, baby. Fox get you up out of
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah,
Because I'm
it's
sure
about
they
the
were
bottom
paying
line.
Tucker Carlson a grip. But give it a couple months. You're going to see the new, younger, cheaper Tucker Carlson. I promise you they're cooking it up. If
Yeah,
they haven't
probably.
already.
They already have somebody waiting,
Yeah, of course. Come on
waiting.
now. And it's going to be cheaper than Tucker because his star was growing amongst that certain demographic. And so, people want to see that type of stuff. The company just made a wiser business decision. Speaking of business decisions, Tyrese and child support.
I
Poor
was just
business
about to
decision.
switch to that. I was about to say, yo,
Poor
I didn't
business
have much on that
decision.
whole, Tucker Carlson down thing, but and at first when you sent this to me
It's important.
and you said we should
No,
talk
wait,
about
hold
it, I'm
on,
like, yo,
hold on,
I don't have
hold
much
on,
to say
hold on. It's
about.
important. It's important to talk about Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon because those are pivotal figures in media, and they both got fired around the same time. And I'm not a person that believes in coinky dinks, right? Like that's too strange that CNN and both Fox fire
I'm,
their
I'm
new
not
political
arguing that.
characters. That's weird to me. And so yes, I
All
feel
I'm
like it is
saying
important to
is,
discuss.
listen, I'm not dismissing your points. All I'm saying is when you send it to me, I'm like, I don't got much on that, but we can talk about it, and we're here talking about it.
There you go.
I just didn't have much on it. I didn't put the time into research every single thing about it.
But
But now,
I get it.
what was you talking about? You talking about this brother Tyrese?
Yeah, man.
And,
And I mean, we're
and
going to use them as a vehicle to
a
talk about,
lot
maybe
of things.
maybe more of an important topic. But Tyrese is in court recently,
He's been
dealing
in
with
court
child
for a
support.
while,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and, and what do you say? He got he was ordered to pay $636,000 for child support and court fees, lawyer bills, things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't really think it was just child support. Now that I'm looking at it, when you sent it, the headline was about child support. But when it comes to child support, he was ordered to pay.
He
Uh,
had to pay her fees, too, her legal fees, too.
yeah, he had to pay a legal fees, so that was the bulk of it. But he was ordered to pay $10,000 a month last August. Um, so
Yeah.
how do you want to start this one? Because I feel a few ways about this.
Well,
So
I'm going to say this, and that's, I don't want to be on, keep y'all too late, but child support is always an interesting conversation. And then from the perspective of two men, in very different situations involving children
yeah,
in our personal lives, I think
yeah.
we can approach it from very different perspectives. What I will say is, as a man, I'm always going to have a problem with fathers. And I'm not talking about sperm donors or people that were there and then they're not there. I'm talking about fathers that are a participant in their children's life or want to be. My biggest pushback on the child support notion is that, number one, I feel like our society gives women a little bit too much leeway with that. Again, when you're dealing with fathers, if you
Active
have a
fathers. Let's say it that way. Active
okay,
fathers.
yeah, let's say that. I'll give you that. And then, so if we're talking about active fathers, there's no way that I should have to give my child's mother extra funds. Now, as a man, if you're up and you be like, hey, I want to do and provide extra for my son's mother, which is in the vein that I've always been in because you brought the most precious thing that's in my life to my life. So if I have extra money, but I oftentimes think sometimes and this is not just fathers, a lot of people in economic, deprivation, a lot of people experience that. So if I'm a father and I can't provide money, but I give my time any and every way I can, I don't know if child support is the correct or fair route to go.
I will say this, and I say this to a lot of people who, they have kids and, the parents are not still in a relationship. And that happens. People grow apart, situations change, whatever, And I recommend a lot of people put themselves on child support. Reason being, we may say, I know somebody like the back of my hand, and they would never do this to me. They wouldn't blah blah blah. But you cover yourself because let's be real, Tracy. You have a youngin, as they say in the South.
I do. Beautiful.
You don't keep receipts of every single thing you do for your child, do you?
I do not.
So, and not saying his mom would, but let's say she wakes up one day and decides, well, I'm gonna put him on child support and say he never does anything, and you being, who you are and of what hue you are, it's not hard for the court to say, oh well, we're gonna charge you for the last, 6 years, 7 years because you don't have any receipts of anything you got.
We've seen
So,
things that play out unfair that way, sure.
yeah, so that's why a lot of times I suggest go ahead and put yourself on. I'm not telling you that's the only thing you do for your child because I would never recommend that. But
I
it
disagree.
helps you.
But go ahead.
It helps you keep some type of records of what you've been doing in case somebody wakes up. And
again,
like I said, I've been talking about this lately with the whole Kevin Hart thing on the Kevin Hart soundbite where it's like, oh well, does your dog bite? Well, the dog hasn't bit me, but I don't know. Same thing with people. Like people have their own mind. People go through psychological changes, and you never know what you might encounter. But go ahead, you was disagreeing as you tend to do.
I have to give it up to adulthood, though, which I think what you're saying in theory is coming from a genuine place. Your heart is pure, my brother. But again, I have to say, as adults, why would I inflict a change of that magnitude of putting courts and drop-offs and supervised, all the things that can come with that? Why would I put that in the middle when I could just have a conversation with another rational adult? And again, please.
Oh, see, the pushback becomes, is that other adult always rational?
Right, that's what I'm saying. But let me put that caveat in, is like, you got to get out of your feelings when we're talking, because we're talking about children. It ain't about you. And it ain't about how he left you at prom. It ain't about how he cheated on you. It ain't about how she was humping your homeboy and you caught them doing. Those things are not about the children, but they are influencing people's decision on how they're going to deal with the co-parent. And that's the piece that we got to get away from. It's not about you and your feelings. Get out of your feelings. The best thing for children is to have two competent parents that can talk through conflicts and come to a resolution.
You know what?
That's the best thing for kids.
What you're saying sounds amazing.
I know
it sounds wonderful. It is damn near poetic.
But we're not there.
We're not always there. Now, there's some people who do an amazing job of co-parenting, and there's no need to get the system involved. But there's some who's been, kind of screwed by the system because, I've been taking care of my child, but now because she's pissed or because he's pissed, now I got to pay back child support, even though I've been taking care of my child.
I got some pushback for you.
What's up?
If that is the case, since we just really kind of laid out two competent adults, if you're in a situation where you don't have two competent adults and you got one adult that's acting childish, I don't know how much sympathy I'm going to feel for you, because when you laid that ass down.
See, come on, son. Like, nah. I'm not giving you that. That one I'm not giving you. A lot of times you say something, I'll be like, when we laid down initially, maybe she wasn't like that. Maybe he wasn't like that. Maybe that wasn't our mindset. People change. Once again, that goes back to does your dog bite? They won't bite me. But I don't know.
So then
that's not a cop out. That's the reality. I'm not the same. Like me personally, I'm not the same person who I was 5 years ago. Is that the people that knew me back then that liked me was like it was something wrong with them because they didn't recognize? No, because I changed. I've grown. Something has changed me. Experiences might have changed me. So I'm not going to agree with that. Oh, when you agreed to lay down with them, because 2 years later they might not be the same person. So I got to take that into account. I got to take that into account when I lay down with them. I can't. There's no way you can know that. There is no way you can know that. And I use Kanye West. I'm gonna use Kanye West as an example.
There is a way.
No, I'm gonna use Kanye West as an example because we love Kanye with College Dropout, late registration, all that.
I'm about to say back in the day we did.
And then all of a sudden he flipped the script, but there was no way we could know that as consumers of his product.
Yes, there was.
There was no way.
Serious?
Well, how do we know?
He was normal in late registration college dropout days. He was a normal human being.
Yeah, he wasn't the same person he is now.
There were no tells that he could possibly, like, in the future he might be. If listening to the music, watching his interviews, pink polos, his whole style, and there was no signs that could have told you at that point. Like,
his style was his style. That don't mean he was gonna go crazy. At one point, we wore big white tees, and you went through a phase where all you wore was black tees, blue jeans, and black sneakers. Does that mean you was gonna be, a black Air Force One Robin dude? No, it's just that's your
no. But that could have told you something. That did tell you something about my personality. Do you think that those outfits, knowing me now, do you think that informed you of what I would eventually end up being?
Absolutely.
My personality.
Because if you think about that uniform right there, black tees, black Air Force Ones, and blue jeans.
It's shy. It's in the background.
Huh?
Shy.
He's with whatever. Eventually them Air Force Ones are gonna be wrinkled up. He gonna you may ask you, can you bump your cigarette? That's what that says to me. But that's not who you are. You're more than that. Say I am.
Not say that to me.
Say I am. See, it didn't say it to you, but the signs we go to social media memes, bro.
Poverty. That's what it really was. T-shirts are cheap. I wore.
But even with that same poverty, what does that say later? How else do we see people wearing that stuff now? And they 36-year-old and hey, bro, you got a dollar?
Yeah. It's poverty. You got
it. Exactly. So if we go by what you was to what you are now, they're not the same. But if I would have took those signs,
now I need to get you on the record, and I need you to say this for the ADP listeners. Are you saying that crazy in most cases, and maybe not all, obviously you get people that are normal and then all of a sudden you snap. I'm not talking about those people. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about psychopathy that comes in a relationship. If you are refusing to acknowledge your person's flaws and you don't want to see it, then yeah, it might seem shocking to you. But oftentimes, so there's a woman, hold up, I dated her, love of my life, first love of my life. You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
There was a lot of people that I dealt with that seen from day one, she ain't right, bro. That ain't gonna go well for you.
But that was based on, it was based on actions.
That's what I'm telling you.
So no, her actions said, she messed up. Nothing else. But I'm not going. You're going based on. Well, there may be signs, and it's very possible that there are signs. There are signs. But you ever heard the phrase "hell have no fury like a woman scorned"? So that isn't. So you might have not seen those signs because you never scorned her.
But it was there when It was there when she told you put the toilet seat down, and the way she told you wasn't like, hey, just put the toilet seat. It was her energy wasn't there. I'm telling you, and all of the ADP listeners, please go into your past relationships that didn't work out. If you were in a 5-year relationship at year 2, man or woman was showing you exactly who they were, and you didn't want to listen because you were in love or because you thought it was minuscule.
No. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one.
You're probably right, but I'm gonna go out on they always tell you.
Like you might think, they just got an attitude problem. That don't mean they're gonna have me in court, get me for back child support because we're not together.
But it's in their DNA. It's in their character.
In that case, it's possible for anybody to do that. That's bad. I don't like that argument. That's a bad argument.
No, it's not, because I know you, my brother, and I don't care if I disrespected you tomorrow. Then I don't care if I disrespect you for the next 100 days. I feel very comfortable and confident that you're not going to come back and say something negative about me, because that's not your character. I have 25 plus years of history and evidence to say he ain't going to be on the internet. If I was to go rogue and lose my damn mind tomorrow, he's not going to respond to me on the internet. We're not going to go back and forth on the internet because that's not his character, regardless to what I do.
So I'll say this, and I'll bring this up. So what's my character? Calm, cool, and collected. Let it roll off the shoulder.
Depending on what we're dealing with.
Oh, I'll say, because it was just recent you had to tell me, hey, bro, you might not want to go put your hands on that old man. Right? Because my character normally says, I'll let it go. But
Yeah, but
just 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
I wanted physical violence. So
that's fair.
you know, you like I said, you never know what's the straw, what's the last straw, what's the straw that broke the camel's back. So even with that, you don't know, like, yeah, you know, you don't know, like, you might think, oh, well, they just gonna have an attitude problem. They're gonna be this, and that. They've never done this before, and you know, whatever happened between y'all, it might have changed. Now they're not as spiteful.
I'm gonna get my social work degree and I'm gonna start counseling people on this. I'm gonna finish up this master's because I definitely think in most relationships, and that's any relationship, in most
I mean, you're
situations,
saying there's
interactions,
always signs, and if that was the case, we wouldn't have things called sociopaths.
of course. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
I
not
mean,
talking
that's of
about a
course clearly that's the exception. I guess is what
yeah,
you're about to say.
that is the exception,
Uh,
obviously. But when we're in our everyday reaction, the signs are there. They told you, you just didn't want to listen, or you justified
yeah, no,
it in your mind. You
I'm
made
not
up
with you
you
on that.
made up an excuse and said, no, maybe this or maybe that. And I'm going to tell you right now that will always lead to your detriment. You ever heard that? You asked me, did I ever hear certain cliches? Did you ever hear the cliche when people show you who they are?
You believe them?
Believe them.
They might have never showed you who they are.
That's no, because only sociopaths, right? And unless you're telling me we got a society full of sociopaths, no, people generally show you
I
exactly who
think
they
we
are.
do to a certain extent.
Nah, come on,
I
we're
think
not
we
on
do.
no level, no. Because
Um,
even the sociopaths
um,
aren't really sociopaths, right? We can get into that, but that's a topic for a later conversation.
no, we're not gonna get into that. That's a topic for another day. Getting back to Tyrese, like I said, he was ordered to pay that amount. He also spazzed out on a judge. Apparently because the judge called his wife the B word or something like that, or his ex-wife.
It's an ugly situation, and I don't love it. I'm sad about that has to happen.
So I think the biggest, because it's been a few people getting huge payouts, right?
I've seen,
His
and I mean,
ex-wife,
it's
wasn't it
not
like
new.
Dr. Dre ex-wife or something like that?
Nicole came up. Beats by Nicole
Yeah,
came up.
like a few people came up.
Beats by Nicole came
So
up for sure. Yeah.
it,
I'm
I
not
don't want to sound bad saying this. Is that the new come up? Like, yo, let me.
if it
I mean,
is.
I guess 50 said it a long time ago. Have a baby by me, baby, be a millionaire.
It is.
He
I
said it a
can't
long time ago.
disclaim
So,
that.
don't have a baby by me because it's not gonna make you a millionaire. So, you
But
can
you
have my
gonna
baby.
get
We
hurt.
gonna stay together.
But you go. I mean, whatever. But I'm just saying for those of you,
We are,
those
baby. I know you watching this. We locked in.
locked in. All right. But for those of us who aren't as locked in as my partner here and happen to go through a breakup, you need to approach these things with a certain level of decorum. And you need to get out of your feelings. And you also need to take responsibility. Because no, it's not, and I see the comment, lots of people mask who they truly are.
I agree.
Big cap. No, they don't.
Yeah, nah, I agree. I agree. I agree. So let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you this because you said people don't mask who they are. Do you think? Do you think? Well, I'm gonna use me as an example. Do you think the same person you know are the same people that see me at work? Is that the same person they see at my job?
Absolutely not. I think I know you more than right. So now we're getting into deeper relationships, right? So if your relationship is, and again, that you're proving my point because now we're talking about if you've been in a marriage or been in a relationship as
Raising a
long
child
as
is full time. It's full time and it's very taxing. So run that check.
woo,
Like
I feel you.
here's gonna be
You get your
my
money.
argument with that in a second.
Hell no, I feel you. Get your money. But again, relationships, you
Nah.
know those people.
I'm gonna have
You
an
know
argument with that
those
in a
people.
second. So,
I know you. I know Gatewood. And so it
you gonna
becomes a
put my
different
last name on the
dynamic.
internet, bro?
Boy, you have a whole internet footprint. Can you stop? The point is, the point is, these relationships are cemented, and people know people. I know you. So do I know that you're capable of doing some off the wall shit? Sure, because I know you. I've seen you go there. Maybe people at work may not know that. Is that you wearing a different mask? No, that's the duality of being a fucking human being.
Okay, so the fact that there's a duality, dual, two,
But if
one,
they,
one. The
but
fact
if
that
they
there's
paid attention, but if they paid attention to you, could they have seen that in you? Sure, because I did. Ask them forever.
raising a
That,
child. I want to get back to this comment.
go ahead, talk about it.
Raising a child full time is very taxing, so run that check.
I love
I
that.
was, and I'm just speaking for me personally. This is me personally.
I could have predicted Kanye's trajectory, but go ahead. I
I
could have
couldn't
definitely.
have, but that's neither here nor there. This is me personally.
You heard
If
Hov
we
once
have,
tell those stories about him being in the studio. I'm the future of rap. You heard Hov talk about like how Kanye used to be the
I
producer,
think, and
but
that's what it was right there. So he had that one thing that made him snap.
before that,
He
he
was
was
not
eccentric.
crazy, and
He was
even
eccentric.
then,
I'm
like
not gonna say crazy. He was
he
eccentric. He was eccentric
he was.
before that.
I mean, that'll make you crazy though. That'll make you
But
off
it
the wall. That'll make
it
you
lives,
say slavery
and he
was a
was arrogant,
choice. Once
eccentric.
again, that still doesn't make you crazy. I'm arrogant. You're
But
arrogant.
those things can make you crazy if you feel slighted. They can. If you don't know how to handle those emotions, arrogance can make you crazy.
Come on, son. So now you're saying so many people are crazy because they're arrogant or
Kanye
they're.
went left initially, and I know people want to put on his mom, but when people were telling him you can't be a rapper before Through the Wire, right? Because we watched this this is a perfect example. We watched him grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So people were telling him, yo, you're a producer. Stay in that lane. Shut up. You're not a rapper. And then it like popcorn. But in that whole time when people were like, no, don't play a bullshit CD in my office, he was losing it. Often. There
I
are
don't think
infamous stories of
that makes you always make you crazy.
Okay.
Sometimes it's called persistence. Like it's called determination.
I mean, there are ways to it, but go ahead and get back to
Yeah,
your,
I mean,
sisters. Don't get that check because I want to hear your.
no,
I
I'm
want
not
to
gonna
hear
say
your
don't get
pushback on
that
this.
check, but if we have a child together
Uh-huh.
and you feel like, oh, it's so taxing and overwhelming, then let me raise the child.
No,
Let
because
me be
it's
the
not.
single parent.
You so
No,
logical, bro.
no. It's not that. It should be that logical, but it
It's not.
isn't.
Yeah, it's
And
not.
in the court, will argue, oh well, no, the child needs to be with their mother and this, that, and third, and that's fine. But that's my logical answer. You see my calm, logical tone?
I mean, it's calm and logical. Too bad these situations rarely are calm and or logical. So
And
wrap
that's
this
what I'm
up.
trying to tell you.
We
Because
want to
if you
know.
say logical, that means if it's logical, it can be predicted. But like you
Yeah,
said,
but
a lot of times
emotion.
these situations aren't logical.
Yeah,
Like it
feelings and
makes no
emotion.
sense if you have someone providing for the child on an almost daily basis to say, I'm gonna go to court and put you on child support because I don't like your new girlfriend.
Well, feelings and logic don't go together.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So therefore, it's
It's
unpredictable.
not
Oh my
unpredictable because again,
God!
you cannot hide yourself. Those feelings, right? You could show if I've been with you, me and you been together, not on no, gay shit, but on some like man shit. Me and you been together for 25 plus years. In the
No.
on the first in the first in our first interaction, I knew like, nah, his family is on some pack mentality shit. And like they really ride for each other because that was one of our first interactions, a negative one.
Yeah, that's true. You try to cut the line.
We could talk about that a different day. But the point is, I knew at that point that the Gatewood family was a pack. Nobody told me. I didn't experience nothing, but like, yo, the Gatewood clan, don't do that with them because if you're gonna beat one, you're gonna have to beat them all up. Right? Right. So it becomes again these actions and reading people and believing what you see. People don't want to believe what they see. That's the crux of this argument. You don't want to believe when the person showed you that I'm capable of taking all your money or taking your kid to a foreign place or putting you on. You didn't want to believe it, but it was there. You can front to me and your friends and look at the mirror in front of yourself, but the actions were there. Believe it.
Okay. That's what I got on that. Okay.
Wrap it up, my guy. Wrap it up. What you want to wrap it up on?
I don't even know how I want to wrap it up. What we talked about tonight? We talked about
Oh, we
the,
talked
the,
about
the
math.
marijuana. We talked about mass media. We talked about child support. So I'm gonna touch on the whole marijuana thing. Hey, even though you heard my argument against it, and I argued with the comments of it, man, you got to move better. You do know the rules. You do know the punishment. Do what you got to do to be the best you. and the best shoe was a medalist, and it got stripped away on some
Tomatoes,
nonsense.
tomatoes.
Nothing
I'm
you.
throwing tomatoes, tomatoes. I'm throwing tomatoes.
I mean, you can throw your tomatoes. That'll make it less true.
Go ahead, chop it up.
It's unfortunate that you lost your medals for the nonsense. For something that's not even illegal in most places anymore. Um, but you know, you gotta. Unfortunately, sometimes we gotta bend a little bit to fit certain things, and sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to make sure you stay ahead
Mm,
until you can create your own lane and live by your own rules.
that's deep.
Um, you Yeah, exactly. I like that. Use your own discretion. Don't face the consequences. So while I do still support you and you're still a medalist in my book, like I said, it's unfortunate that we gave them that power to take that from you. But yo, fight back. That's all it is. Start fighting back. Get back to the top.
I respect it. While I may not agree, I respect it. I'm gonna say and encourage all the ADP people continue to be a disruptor because the rules and the landscape of this society, especially in America, has often proven time and time again that they don't get it right the first, second, or third, fourth, fifth time. They get it wrong a lot. And so without the disruptors, without the people who continue to challenge the quote unquote status quo or the rules, right? Like you gotta there has to be someone. And so I would encourage every ADP listener, and it doesn't have to be taking some crazy step where you lose your job, but continue to challenge and question the things that are law and that are rule. And so that maybe, just maybe, we could create something better for those people coming behind us.
That's big. That's fire. So on that note right there, this podcast is all done. Peace, love, blessings.